right here. Okay, this is day one of a two-part Chiron class. April 2024, I think, is where we are in the world. Okay, so I think this is going to be a pretty casual class. There's only four of us, so we can like get kind of like even talk charts a little bit. But I'll start by pulling up Chiron himself. So I also just want to name, because we're like living in the frequency of it right now. Like there was just this earthquake that personally affected two of our four people with like geographically where they live. Crazy timing, like 45 minutes, less than, no, like 35 minutes before class. We're in the beginning of the totality of the eclipse, which has even, we're actually, as of is today the 5th? As of the 3rd, we're in the beginning of the Jupiter. I know I'm talking about things that are not Chiron, but like the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus is an earthquake. So we're really, I think really that is what's here. But then it's like confounded by the eclipse. Like it's shaking loose what needs to go with the eclipse. So we just like work with the energies. Like when I'm doing astrology, it's like one thing for me to be thinking of the transit. It's another thing, you know how I always say, like, live through the transit and like feel what it is for you. That's how you actually learn and know astrology. So we could say all the things about whatever, but like literally the earth just shook. You know, how does that strike you? That's kind of one of your questions for reflection. I'm I'm thinking to just, if you're like, I don't even know, or like I don't live in Connecticut or have family there or whatever, it's also about security. It's like that the earth signs were just rocked along with the actual earth. So all of you that have Taurus energies, Virgo energies, Capricorn energies, that's where in the chart, another place to be like looking or understanding the impact of the astrological earthquake feel. But remember too, another word I like rather than earthquake is breakthroughs. Like, yes, stuff is like coming through quick and shaking loose and showing up or falling away, which is same with eclipse, matches that some of those same themes. But it's for the purpose of a breakthrough in the house where you have, oh my God, how do I not have this degree point memorized? 20 degrees, 21 degrees. Give me a second. I've been doing too much with the eclipse and I have all those degree points memorized. So the 20th, it's exact at 8:27 p.m. Mountain Time, 21 degrees, 50 minutes. So almost 22 degrees of Taurus. What house do you have that in? And this is when I get nerdy. You guys are all advanced enough, I can tell you this. Look 4 different ways at what house you have this conjunction happening in. The Jupiter Uranus April 20th conjunction. I didn't know we were going to start with this, but the earth told us to. The earth had a strong message for us this morning. So yeah, 22 degrees of Taurus. So when you pull your chart in astro.com, it's going to default to the Placidus house system, which is great. I use that one all the time. So look in that one. Also go back to, you want me to show you what I mean? Oh, this will be in the video. So you go to chart selection, and then you go to zodiac and houses, and it says house system, and then there's a drop down menu. So default or Placidus, they're the same in this platform. But I also want you to pull the next 2 down, Cook, which is K-O-C-H, and Campanus, which is this one here, Campanus. And then pull it for whole signs. whole sign, that's like Chani. I know I've talked about it because some of you are familiar with her stuff. It's where it kind of lines the chart up like in a pretty even way, and all the houses are exact to the zodiac signs. So it's not accurate, but it's actually how in the ancient world how they would do predictive astrology. So the whole house system's a little more mundane and predictive of like your reality world. The Placidus is kind of more like a good capturing of all the energies. Cook is a little more galactic or has like a more of a piece of your soul story in it. And then Campanus is also like very real world and connected to you in Boulder or you in Florida or wherever you are, like kind of connects you to the earth and it changes the angles a little bit. It's based more on a mathematic with where you live. And so what you might have 22 degrees of Taurus in the fourth house, all four of those charts. That could be possible. Whole house is most likely to change the house. So how you use this information is you might have two houses that are being impacted if you pull the chart with these different calculations. And that just will help inform you. Like they're going to be next to each other. So like for me, I'm working with fifth and sixth house energy with this one. And so the house we're talking about Jupiter and Uranus conjunction on April 20th because the earthquake told us to. And here's another piece. Here's how Chiron's coming through. Chiron trusts the earth. He's an earth medicine shaman. So he's always like, go, what's happening first? How do we trust what the earth and what nature is telling us? That's always his message. So he's kind of saying that, and that's why we're veering off and talking about this. This probably needs its own other class. But 3 weeks, yeah, or a little, maybe in 2 weeks. Maybe we'll do this right after the 12th. Anyway, so already that energy of that conjunction, because it's the biggest energy of the year, it's a rare once in a lifetime energy. It really activated on the 3rd, 2 days ago, and it goes through May 7th. So that's one of the major background frequencies. You know how I always say when I'm talking about a specific thing in astrology, I'm always like, there's like all these bands of different storylines and they're all layered together and they're all happening. I don't want to like arm wrestle between like what's stronger, the beginning of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction or this crazy eclipse on Monday with Chiron conjunct. I'm like, oh my God, they're both like overwhelmingly powerful and different and happening in two different signs that are next to each other. So we're just kind of naming the earthquake and that breakthrough energy. And I'm just trying to guide you into like, look in these houses to find out where that's happening for you. And it's going to be probably one house away from where the eclipse is happening for you. Because Aries and Taurus are the two signs where the eclipse is in Aries and the conjunction is in Taurus, and they're next to each other in the chart. So wherever you have those two places.
So we're looking for where you said Jupiter, or what are we looking for in our chart to figure out where the eclipse?
So to figure out where the conjunction is happening, which is our background frequency that the earthquake is guiding us toward, we're looking at Taurus in your birth chart. This is not a birth chart, but it's a chart. This is the eclipse chart. Don't get confused. Pretend this is a birth chart.
Okay.
So you're going to find, where's Taurus? Oh, here it is. Okay. Where's 21 degrees? You start with where Aries becomes Taurus. It goes counterclockwise. So you count over with these titches, 5, 10, 15, 20. Boop, boop. So right here. So if this was a person, this would be happening in their 10th house.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Now the Aries eclipse point, it's a different point. This is happening on Monday just after noon. That is happening at 21 degrees. Sorry, 19 degrees and 24 minutes. See how I like get the degrees go in my head. Anyway, It's happening at 19 degrees, 24 minutes of Aries. So you go one sign back to Aries and you do the same thing. You start over at the, where Pisces turns to Aries. It goes counterclockwise. 5, 10, 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 19 degrees. It's going to be right here. So look at this person's chart. This isn't a person. Both of those things are happening in the 10th house when I have it under the Campanus house measurement. Okay. So if this was a person, I'd be like, holy shit, you're going to have a breakthrough and a releasing and a letting go and like all the energies of the eclipse, plus all the energies of this conjunction, all happening in your 10th house. Most of you are going to have this in 2 houses. Some might have it in 1 house. If it's confusing when I say all this, only look at the Placidus house system and just stick with 1 house system so you don't get yourself all twisted around. Okay, I'm going to keep answering questions and helping people not be lost because you can do this. So also, Chiron, first of all, he's like, do you feel him? He's like sitting in the chair, even though my bag's over there. He just sits. He's so, like, he makes me cry every time. He's like so patient. He's like, I will teach this 100 ways until you understand this. And picture, this has been so hard for me to picture, but he's like a man all the way to his feet. And then he has like a horse butt and back horse legs. Okay. He's like not an actual centaur. It's real hard to picture. I don't mean to laugh, Chiron. I just like my brain has a hard time. And we love you. Okay. So I'm going to answer some of Mia's questions. I'll say them so you can hear what she's saying and asking because it probably will help everyone.
I'm just like, so when I look, I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like I'm lost.
Let's start with, you're always starting with looking at your own birth chart. You're looking at that. Okay.
And I see Chiron and my in Taurus.
So
my moon is at 20 degrees. My Chiron is 6.
Mm-hmm. So we're starting with Taurus because we're talking about the conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus, which is at 21 degrees, 50 some minutes, 22 degrees basically. So then you look at your chart, you find that little piece that has Taurus, you find that degree point. And so the most simple part is you look at what house is it happening in. So 22 degrees of Taurus. When you go, okay, do you mind if I show it? Yeah. So I'm finding Taurus in her chart, and I'm going to start with the side of Taurus that's close to Aries, and I'm going to count over to 22 degrees. And it's happening right exactly where your chart goes from the 3rd house to the 4th house. So like basically, which is in her case, the 3rd house transfer. She's just laughing. It's my inner child. Fuck. Her IC line is 23 degrees. So first we're looking at what house is it happening in. So we could get 55,000 hours of study just on, that breakthrough energy is happening at the end of your 3rd house.
And that is the Jupiter Uranus
conjunction is happening there. Yeah. And then you guys have tools. You have all the stuff I've given you about the houses and what's what. 3rd house, generally, quickly speaking, is like her daily life, how she relates, what she does, how she thinks, how she communicates. It's kind of all that stuff. And it's not security.
No, it's not.
Security is 2nd house. But you've built, if all have gone well, you've come through the 1st house and you understand who you are. You understand how you find security and what you need for comfort and security in the world. You've built on that. You have your resources. And now you're in the 3rd house. Like I was thinking Mr. Rogers. Like if you seen a quick, Mr. Rogers is the 3rd house. It's like, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. What are you doing today? What are you around? Who are you relating to? Are you wearing your outside shoes or your inside shoes and sweater? Anyway, it just makes me laugh. But when you're at the end of the 3rd house, you're finishing that, like, okay, like I think for you, like I've got my morning routine aligned. I've got things set up for myself of how it feels good. And how do you bring that into the next house, which is 4th house? which fourth house is home, family. It is a sense of security, like emotional security, and it relates to maternal stuff, both yourself as a mother, your maternal lineage, your own mom, like stuff like that, and childhood roots. And that line, that IC line, is always in everybody's chart the divider between the third and the fourth house. So it's one of the most important house changes over, because that axis that we have where it's the IC and the midheaven, this way we have the ascendant and the descendant, the ascendant and the shadow. This way we have our aspirations and our roots always. So Mia is going to have some breakthrough, or is already starting to have a breakthrough around inner child energies, things related to moving from how she's living her days and thinking into more of a focus on family, home, emotional security. Because in addition, I love that you colored this in. I love this so much. In addition, you can see her natal moon is right there. So her natal moon at 20 degrees is getting also activated, which also connects to security in a different way. And she has this whole moon thing in her chart that she knows and understands, and or still but will be understanding for the rest of her life. So all of that is also activated by this breakthrough. So that is a piece, whatever's happening in your chart there, that's like a background frequency, or like a meaning making context for why the eclipse is going to do what it's going to do. Does that make sense? What questions do you have to keep going? Or Kelsey, do you have any questions? Feel free to jump in too, even though not everybody can hear you.
Yeah, I have some, I guess, comments. I mean, mine is, it's funny we were talking about like relationship stuff, because my like, oh wait, no, the Taurus one, the 21 degrees with the Taurus one, was that the earth energy or the
Yeah,
earth?
that's like the earthquake. Yep.
That one lands like exactly on my Mars, in my
Oh,
Mars
okay.
house. And seventh house is like,
I didn't hear in the seventh house.
yeah,
This energy for Kelsey is exactly on her Mars
yeah.
body. No wonder you're freaking tired.
And then
It's like a strike.
my eclipse one is, it's just in my sixth house, but there's nothing really there. It gets close to my descendant, but
Yeah. So her eclipse is in it's a house over in the sixth house. So you're looking, when you have a chart where they're in two different houses, which most of you are going to have, it's going to be like, what's it's hard to say, the earthquake's here already, but the eclipse is like also here, like they're both here. So how do you feel into the sixth house energies in your case and the seventh house energies? I think everybody else, I think all the other three of you have third house getting activated, third, fourth house, if I remember right. But how do those houses work together? So you're kind of understanding like how, like sixth house is more about it kind of connects to third house as far as like taking care of yourself in daily ways, but it's more about health, and it's more about what you're committed to, or what you're the work you're doing that feels like a commitment or an enslavement or a burden or a healing path. And how do you bring that to seventh house, in your case, relational energies? Whenever like sometimes it feels like too much when you're talking about a planet currently in a zodiac sign currently, and then applying it to something in your house, which is not now, it's just you. But then you're like looking at planets in your chart and they're in different places. Like it gets really confusing. So I always encourage you to write it out. Like right now, what's happening is Jupiter and Uranus are in a conjunction in Taurus at about 22 degrees on April 20th. And just let that sit and understand that as like a movement of the energies now. And you can write earthquake next to that, because that's also breakthroughs. And that does have a good energy, okay? Like Jupiter is a benefic. Jupiter wants things to be awesome. So don't let that earthquake energy be like scary. It's like it is time for someone to just like kind of take you by the shoulders and wake up a little bit. It's like that kind of an energy. Or just like it opens, you know, when you just get stuck thinking, like you're just in your thinking brain and you're like, it's this, and something just like cracks you open to like, I hadn't even thought about moving to Erie or like whatever. Yeah. So it's Uranus has that energy of like you didn't see it coming. It's out of left field and all of a sudden it can be real. And Jupiter makes that big. So that's even though I'm saying it's an earthquake, it's in that flavor. Okay. And then you kind of go through your process of looking at your chart. Where do I personally have Taurus at 21 degrees and 52 minutes? What else is around there? Are there other planets that are getting activated? What house is it in? Is super advanced, is looking across the chart from it, or even squaring. If you did the Pluto class, you kind of understand that you can go in that direction. I mean, you could probably spend 6 hours of self-study just on what we're talking about here.
Amy, where is?
Go ahead. Yep.
Where flips?
Yes. Okay.
Because
So
we did the Jupiter and the
yes.
Uranus. Now to where, how do you
That's
move it?
exactly where we're going next. You're perfectly on time. So now in your same, maybe like on the next page of your notebook, because you don't want to get yourself confused, you write down the eclipse is Monday, the 8th at 12:21 p.m. Mountain, 2:21 Eastern. And it's happening at 19 degrees and 24 minutes of Aries. So you do the same thing. You apply, where's Aries in my chart? Aries looks like the little V. You find that. Next, you look at where is 19 degrees. So it's kind of the same. The degrees are pretty close to each other from those two things, just in a different sign. So you find where that is and what house. So if you don't have anything really kind of going on there, you look at, well, what house is that? Second house for Mia. Sixth house for Kelsey. Is that right? So, okay, you're going to have wildly different experiences of how the eclipse feels in your reality, because those are very different house energies. So it'll be interesting to talk next week. What happened? The other thing is eclipses aren't always exactly that day. A lot of times
But we're feeling it now.
we're feeling it, but we might not get it, or the thing might not wash away for another couple of weeks or even 6 months. But we kind of have it. We kind of know, like we'll know what it's about. So then you kind of want to figure out, is there anything opposing it?
That would be the 8th house.
Mm-hmm. So the houses are always going to be 6 apart from each other and in opposition. So 6th and 12th house is going to be opposed for you. 8th house is going to be opposed. Like the oppositions are probably more for you guys than the actual conjunction where it's happening, because those houses just have more like trauma or emotional, spiritual topics happening. And like some of you might, a lot of us in our generation have Pluto kind of in that vicinity of being opposed by this eclipse. That's a whole 2 pages in your journal. I mean, this is when, don't let yourself get bogged down by like knowing it all. What you want to go with is like, what part feels like, even now, as I'm talking about the conjunction of Uranus and Jupiter and Taurus, and I'm also starting to talk about the eclipse a little bit. Which one's like calling to you? Which one feels like, oh, that's the one that I'm like feeling pulse? Or I look at my chart and I'm like, there's just a lot of stuff there. I don't maybe know what all of it is, but that's probably the one that's the bigger energy for me. And just go there. Don't get yourself too tripped up in all the details. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mia's saying she feels that because it's hitting right at that IC, that feels like a stronger hit, so to speak, or place to pay attention to, energy to follow in her case. And I think, like Kelsey, you're saying, yeah, the seventh house stuff feels like there's more to it for me. Everybody's going to have a different answer to that. The thing is, so the moon makes things personal and makes us feel them. And that's one reason why the eclipses are so like think of all the people, all the muggles are getting in their car right now and driving to freaking Texas or wherever. And it's gonna be cloudy. They're not gonna see it. They're not gonna know how to work with the energy of it, and they're gonna be triggered in their placement of where it's hitting their chart, and it makes me laugh. But really doesn't. Good for them. But they feel it. Like they all feel it and are drawn and want to go see the totality. And like eclipses are very, even if you have no idea about astrology, they're powerful because they're moon connected. Okay. So even if you're like, we're talking about these themes and it's like, oh, well, the eclipse doesn't look like it's going to do much. I don't have anything in Aries. Okay. I just smiled, like, okay, we'll just see. And so this is actually a good opportunity for you to like learn real-time transits hitting your own chart. So if you can't really predict or like you're like, oh, I don't know, my third house, like nothing's really going on there or whatever. Like maybe it's going to be really light. Like a third house example, I might be mixing up the direction of this, but a third house example would be like your next door neighbor puts their house for sale. And you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And that sucks because our kids play together and you're moving out of the state and that's too bad. Like your neighborhood's changing. Or the drain breaks at your neighborhood pool and it's closed for the first 2 months. That's not how you imagined. That's a bad example. She's like, don't say that. I know your pool's going to be fine. But like it just like something just changes or like okay, a great example because this is happening right now is like there's construction everywhere. So like your commute to work, like your daily routine, I always take Arapahoe and now it's backed up with traffic because of construction, so I'm going to go a different route. Like even simple things like that are just like changes to your daily routine, third house. So then you just start to understand like, oh yeah, astrology doesn't always have to be like trauma level or like smack you across the face or pull the rug out from under you level. That stuff's more rare. Sometimes it's just like, oh, I didn't know that I didn't expect this little thing to change in my reality right now, but it's so interesting that that's my eclipse energy. So I want to, unless do you have a question, Kelsey?
I do. Yeah. So I feel this like seventh house Mars thing really intensely with just like using my voice and voicing out what I need to voice out. And it like is really involved with decision making. And I heard an astrologer talk about how if you make any big decisions during eclipse season, they'll just fall apart. So I feel so conflicted with that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so she's asking about because particularly because she's feeling like for her the eclipse energy is bigger because it's striking her Mars exactly. So she's like, okay, but Mars is the body, it's anger, it's how you initiate, it's how you deal with conflict, it's how you kind of come into power or masculine kind of energies. And so she's also saying, like, I heard an astrologer say, like, don't make decisions during the eclipse because it's just going to like Mercury's retrograde during, which is the message. So when we look at the bands of the different astrology that's all happening in a layer, Mercury is in Aries and is retrograde until the 26th. And that's just asking us to slow down, which is important because we want to also be thinking about Aries is the zodiac energy, the constellation energy of where Chiron is and has been, to bring Chiron back into the conversation. He's just sitting there. He's so patient. I love him. And he's just like, he just kind of nods and like with a little wink. Mm-hmm. he's like 60. Like when I work with him, he's like that age, and he's just like anyway. I don't know what his actual mythological storyline age was, but Aries is the fastest sign of the zodiac. If you know, yeah, like I'm laughing because we do have an Aries moon friend in this class who's not here right now because she's doing 100 things right now, not class. But like Aries moon people, they like are demanding and they want things now and they don't want to wait. And there's like that energy. Aries sun people are like going to trample right over you and not even listen to what you have to say because they're just going and doing. And I mean, you can like, I love Aries energy. And actually, one of my friends who I learned the most from like my beginner astrology days, she's an Aries sun. So I get, and I actually think Molly McCord might be. Uh-huh. Like, anyway, that's a different story. She never shares her sun, but she shares other things. So when any of us have either our own energy in Aries or we're affected by a current personal planet in Aries, we can be a little like that even if we don't have it in our birth chart. So a lot of us have no Aries in our birth chart really, or no personal planets at all. And so we're more watery or we're more earthy or whatever. We don't have all that fire energy. But Mercury is sort of like, no, this is actually a good time for you to be like having some ideas pop. Like, I think I have this like entrepreneur Aries person that I work with in my practice. He has like, I don't know, most of his personal stuff is in Aries. Like he's like the embodiment of it. And there are always like, I can't even keep up with all the stuff he's doing. Like it's crazy the amount of like irons in the fire is how I would say it. There's just always stuff like popping and cracking and going and starting and fizzling, and like he can always like start things and they don't always happen, and that's okay. And that's kind of also the Aries, like bring the ideas up, rise it up to get it ready, like strike the match to get the fire going, and maybe you blow the fire out, or maybe the wind blows the fire out, or maybe you light something on fire and it burns, or maybe you like actually build and what's like a good like welding term, or like where you're like forging something in fire, you know. So when I think about the eclipse hitting a personal planet, it's it's asking, so eclipses, I'm backtracking a lot of different energies, so hopefully this isn't confusing, but eclipses take away the light. Like that's like the most simple way to think of an eclipse. Darkness, shadow. So you want to look at like, if this is hitting my Mars, what's my shadow energy? If this is close to my moon, what's my shadow energy in that category of themes? And you look back at the chart.
When I look at my chart in particular, directly across that 8th house, which is like all shadow.
Yeah, yeah,
shadow.
yeah. Yeah, so Mia's saying like this eclipse is in an opposition to her Pluto in the 8th house. So yes, that is like, it's shadow with a capital S plus some shadow with some inner child. Which is also like, okay, we're always hearing these things. It's not like a big new surprise. And so when your Mars is getting kind of struck by this eclipse, to me, I think it's about like the shadowier parts of Mars are about how do I, well, it depends on what way you go, but like how am I not listening to my body would be a question. How am I not expressing my anger, or how am I operating from anger? What do I need to heal in my patterns of conflict and conflict resolution? What am I afraid to initiate and why? How do I, like, what's going on with my inner warrior energy? Do I have a wounded warrior? Do I have a, aggro warrior? Like, what's my warrior? And what does he need to be like? The peaceful warrior, empowered, ready for battle, but not like provoking. It's really about how you do things. Another way you can think about Mars is like the car you drive around your life, like how you go about things. And so that might be a question for you, or something that just like, if you're not paying attention to the energies, something happens in your life and takes away your ability to do the things how you're doing them. Like, I just happen to know that you're feeling run down. So it's like, if you weren't following the energies, you would just be run down and you wouldn't be able to do what you want to do. And that itself could just be the eclipse energy for you. But how do you orient to that? How do you weave that into what you like? Do you need to be working less? Do you need a like little retreat because you just are finishing grad school? Like what, what are the things that are affecting you there that you can bring into the healed seventh house energies? And then you go back to like, like you're always kind of going back and forth. Like, wait, what's seventh house again? Oh, it's like relational energies. And you kind of look at your list and look at what you're working with in general in that way in your life. I'm just hearing Chiron's like, okay, that's great. I'm patient, but like it's time to talk about the wound. Right. He was like, I was just getting that sense too. Like, I'm ready. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna shift. And I think, Kelsey, if you just kind of keep that notebook page open, you're gonna get more of your answer as we talk about this, I think. Is that okay? So she said her brother who is in Connecticut and felt the earthquake was like, it's no big deal. It's actually kind of fun. You know what I'm going to say too? So I lived in California. I went to grad school there, and I've experienced several earthquakes, two of which were like not like crazy level, but like pretty significant where I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And there's two ways the earth shakes, which I didn't know. I don't know what you think in your brain when you're from like the Midwest or the East Coast and you're like, I don't know. So one of the earthquakes, I was sitting on the floor with my legs out, like on the rug. I was in grad school, actually. Yes. And the earth rippled. It did this. My whole butt went on the floor. It was so crazy. And then everything was still there. Like all these straight, solid, hard things were there. Like everything just kind of went like this, like a weird trip, and then it was gone. And that was just like the kind of earthquake that brings in like a surreality or like questioning like what's even real. Like it has that kind of quality to it. And the other kind of earthquake is like a fucking Mack truck slams into your house. It's from the side. You shake this way. It's crazy. And that one, I was working in a restaurant. It was like the middle of the night. I just got home from my shift, and I'm like standing, putting stuff away in my bedroom. So I was standing for that one, and I almost fell. Like I like had to like take some steps and like grab something to like not get knocked over. So that has more of the knocking over quality. And did he say what this one felt like? So like tell us, John, and tell us whoever else we know, like what type of earthquake this felt like. And then that also fills in some of the flavor of what's happening. My guess is it's the shaking one because that feels like what's happening in the astrological energy. Okay, Chiron, yes, we're getting to you. Because what Chiron is all about, I think you know enough about the mythology, and I've shared a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to skip over some of that, although I will just pull up this little sheet so you can read about it if you want while I'm talking about it. The shorthand about Chiron is that this is a place in your birth chart where your wound can be understood and where the wound becomes the medicine. So it's like a little key, it's like a K with a circle, and I see it like a key or like a keyhole or something. And it is like when you turn it, you're like opening up this like wound that becomes medicine for yourself. And you can kind of work with this energetically. We're going to do a meditation around it shortly. And I think it's important to say, most of us in this class, Kelsey, you're not in this generation, but we were born right when Chiron was discovered. So this makes Chiron really important to our generation. And when you think about it, we're kind of the first generation that really is focused on healing. We can like openly tell people we go to therapy, and a lot of people older than us didn't have that experience. That was like a hidden, shameful thing. If you were like healing something, you like didn't talk about it. And I think of like the holistic psychologist. I would love to see her chart and where she has Chiron, because I feel like she brought healing to the mainstream. Like we can just like put Instagram cards about whatever. And so I love that, like, we're um embodying the healing path, or like bringing healing into like our daily lives. And that's really what Chiron wants us to do. Chiron's like, this doesn't have to be like some massive thing that you go through where you like heal this thing all in one time. It's about like walking the path of healing. And so this also connects to why Chiron is the secondary or modern ruler of the sign of Virgo. Okay. So he really wants, some of you have Virgo in your chart. One of you is a Virgo sun. So the Chiron's very important to you. And you just want to think about that placement. So I talked to you, I don't want to get, so you have like your natal Chiron is going to be in probably Taurus or Virgo in this group of people, because Chiron moves slowly, 4 to 8 years in one sign. So it creates like a micro generation of people. Like everyone you went to school with, they all have their Chiron in the same zodiac. There's no unique differences there. The thing that makes it unique is more the house that it's in, or aspects that you might have to like your moon or a faster moving planet like Mercury. That whole micro generation would also have, if there's an aspect between Chiron and an outer planet, everybody has that. It's just what house is that in? Okay. So, Chiron also specifically told me for this group, which makes sense when I stop and think about it. There, all of you are overgiving. Like that's just, I'm just gonna tell you that. That's like a blanket thing. And so, and he did too. Like he literally gave his life, gave his immortality, right? So he's also like, just be aware of that. He's not like do it or don't do it. He doesn't judge things. He's just sort of like pointing it out. So that might be like another thing that I think comes up with the moon and the eclipse is some of the energies around the ways you have been overgiving are going to show up this weekend with the eclipse. Okay. Another concept is that, you know, especially, I don't know, those of us with an Aries moon who are not present in class today, and some other people, we want to like heal the wound. We want it to be healed. We don't even want a scar. We just want like clear it. And he's like, that you're human. Humans don't heal all the way. Like just by default, humans do not heal all the way. You live in a nervous system, you have skin, you have organs that like degrade over time. You know, it's like that's just not what's going to happen. And so this is like a relationship to the wound is how to be thinking of this. So you're yourself and your self energy, and you're relating to the wound and the path of healing. And you're like in a companionship or a friendship or an honoring of the path to healing, knowing and understanding and being really clear-eyed that it will never heal all the way. You will always have the core wound activated on some level, but it's more about how you reclaim your power or empowerment over that. So an example of that would be if one of your core wounds is to get triggered and then like act out, you catch yourself sooner. So each time you get triggered, you're like 5 seconds longer of catching yourself before you just like blurt out the acting out thing that you always do or whatever. So you're just like building slowly these like abilities or muscles to catch yourself and to self-regulate and give yourself what you need. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more and then I want to open it up for what your thoughts and questions are. Do you guys know the part of the myth where when Chiron is like later in his storyline, I forget all the exact details, but he's basically shot with an arrow that has been, the point of the arrow has been dipped in poison, but it's a poison that he made. And that's what creates the mortal wound, but he's immortal, but then like takes it on and like says, I'm dead. Like I'll die. I'll trade with Prometheus. The podcast with what's his face, the like theatrical guy. Like super, I'll send this to you, Kelsey. Anyway, so it's like, I don't love the poison. I like to think about, like to me, the poison, so to speak, is like the pain and the pattern that it creates. And that's like the poison, quote unquote. Okay. So in the myth, it's always symbolic, right? We're always talking about there was really no arrow. Maybe there was, I don't know, but there was no poison. Maybe there was, I don't know. But what we're saying like there's this way that you create all of your own kind of like karmic stuff in the earth realm, and you create it physically, and you create it behaviorally, and you create it emotionally, and everything you do ripples out energetically and is like in a quantum field entangled with everybody else. And that's like what is poison, is all your patterns and your pain getting interconnected and entangled with the earth realm and back to self. And then being, how do I say this? Being aware of that, like growing your awareness of that allows you to almost call back the poison, the pain, the pattern, as this concentration for you to understand and work with. And if that's like, if you're like, I'm still like, oh God, I know my core wound, but like, really, what is it? You know, like we kind of keep wanting to know like deeper and deeper and more detailed, like, what is it? Yeah, I'll get to that. It's one of two things slash both of them together for everybody. We're going to get to a universal answer. So just hang on a second. So how you get to know it is in like half of your therapist, like in a transference kind of way. So what's all the stuff that you hate in the world? What drives you crazy in other people? What triggers the crap out of you no matter what you do ever? Like these are sort of the questions for reflection if you're still trying to like kind of nail down like that deepest point of the core wound and what it really all goes back to. Those are the places where you get like the flavor and the characteristics. And then the patterns, because we show up and do the same dang thing each time. Even though we're like, I have more awareness, I have more, capabilities or whatever. Like that's just what we do. And so if you see these things as part of the medicine versus getting annoyed with yourself that the pain is still here, or getting annoyed with yourself that the pattern keeps happening, but you're collecting it as the actual medicine. It's kind of like if you were to get a certain like, I don't know, like you're allergic to a plant and it gives you a rash, but that plant itself is the medicine to put on the rash. It's kind of got that energy to it. It's like kind of a mind fuck, sort of. It's like a vaccine or like homeopathy or like allergy shots, like give yourself a little bit of the medicine so that you can like grow from it and work with it. But we're talking about awareness, energetic awareness of it is what gives you the shot or the homeopathic remedy or whatever. Okay, so this is like, here's my $1 million answer for you about the wound. Everything in the earth realm, everything in the human experience, why we even come to this earth school, which is in fact a higher dimension and a higher realm. We like have graduated on a spiritual level to be here doing this in this physical way. It comes down to two things. It's either shame or fear. So that keeps it really simple. You're like, yes, now I have the simple answer, but it's still gonna be complex to figure it out. But that's like always your answer. So you can kind of ask yourself, is this when I track this, is this to shame or is this to fear? Does that make sense so far? And Chiron, like those are the two things he really experienced. coming into the earth, right? So he understands those and wants to kind of keep us experiencing and activating in those so that we can continue developing and evolving our own medicine. So how do we know we're in shame? How do we know we're in fear? Yes, there's crossover and some things hit both like really well. Shame is the I'm bad. I feel like shit. I'm not enough. Don't have self-worth. It oftentimes is more connected to relational trauma or human to human experiences create shame. Fear is like that nervous system level of I'm not safe. Can both of those happen together? Absolutely. Can they play off of each other? Absolutely. So part of you getting really nuanced and really evolved about your awareness is watching that pinball thing, fear to shame to fear to shame, because sometimes our systems want to stay in activation. So even we can track back to fear, and we can use our tools that we have for nervous system regulation for our vagus nerve and stuff like that. Then we just like go over to I always think of shame as like the bruise, and fear is like the zap, like the nervous system feeling. Like they feel different energetically, but we can like get caught in the pain trap of going back and forth between the two of them. Or like they even play off of each other. Like if I can't get myself out of fear, I have shame that I can't do that. Or if I can't get myself out of shame, I have fear that I'm gonna be there forever. Like they just like that's like the entrapment. Even like some of the codex energies and the layers of the energy field of the earth that are like keeping us in this kind of fear-based amygdala-led society that we live in, is that we can't evolve through and out of those human nervous system shame fear reactions. Okay, so remember I talked about that what this is really about is your self energy being present and whole while you're in a relationship with the pain. So you start to work this where you are in your self energy and in your wholeness with your awareness, feeling and sensing that, conjuring that, borrowing that, faking it till you make it, whatever you need to do, while seeing the core wound, the pain, the shame, the fear as these sort of like separate experiences that your human avatar is going through as part of a learning and healing process. And that is a tough edge to learn. That takes a lot of time and practice. And this is where Chiron comes back in and says, yes, time and practice. He loves these terms because it takes time in the earth and it takes practice. It takes a commitment to a ritual. So he's also saying, like, remember to tell them about the unconscious. So all of you are pretty self-aware humans, and you're pretty aware of a lot of your core wound stuff. So something that's coming up with the eclipse timing, and the reason Chiron is wanting to be kind of exactly in that conversation at that exact degree and minute with this eclipse on Monday, is because, yep. So I'm gonna backtrack and talk about, I'll show you the eclipse chart and I'll show you why he matters in the eclipse. But he wants us to unearth more of the unconscious. So a lot of you who've been working with Pluto, I think it's going to tie into some of the Pluto stuff. You can like weave that over into this conversation. So Chiron is speaking to us. This chart right here is what the eclipse chart looks like. You can see, you can come and sit over here if you want. So how you do this is you put the time in like a birth time, and we know that the eclipse is happening at 12:21 p.m. on Monday the 8th in Boulder. So that's what this chart shows. And when we look at this chart, so here, just to like check out we're doing this right, here's the sun in 19 degrees and 24 minutes. Here's the moon exactly conjunct in 19 and 24 minutes. And look, and Chiron, exactly 1924. I mean, you guys, that is crazy level. Like, it is so remarkable. It like makes me cry every time I talk about it. Like the probability of that, like if you just think in like numbers, it's like, I don't know, it's crazy. So I just feel like you can't ignore Chiron's voice in this. And Chiron has been in Aries for years and years and years, like for 5 years or something like that so far. So he's been like waiting to tell us what's coming with this eclipse. He's been working his way through Aries to say, so when a planet travels through a zodiac sign, the planets are always moving. And when a planet travels through, he takes his teachings, his spiritual perspective, his sort of like agenda for supporting us and the earth, and he focuses it. It's like this semester, we're going to work on Aries theme. Only it's an 8-year timeline. And Aries theme involves, so let's just backtrack to basic zodiac information. Okay. You guys with me on switching to the astrology here? So Aries is the beginning. It's the first sign of the zodiac wheel. So it connects us to getting started. It connects us to youth. Any symbol you can think of that has to do with the beginning, it's that. It also happens to align in the Northern Hemisphere with the spring. It's a spring equinox. So you can kind of think about all of those kind of metaphors of like, all this stuff is alive beneath the surface, wanting to break through and start to grow. But it's also like, because it's not the end, it's not the completion, it's not the fruition. So it's like seeing what it's going to become. It's like having that visionary kind of energy. Aries is ruled by Mars. So another way you can think about Aries energies is you can think about what you know about Mars, the body, the warrior, how we activate, how we have conflict. Like all those energies are also held in the Aries theme. So because Aries connects to youth or the beginning or a child, it definitely in and of itself connects to inner child energies. When I think back to like, I don't know, I I hate to go political, but Trump is just such an easy target for this stuff. He's like such a big baby, and the Aries inner child big baby energy in the boomers is like a great archetype for understanding like the lowest vibration of Chiron and Aries. Like just that like Kelsey's laughing. Like just that sort of like, wow, like I'm the victim, and that's like the lowest vibration of this. So we're not doing that, but like we all have like a little part of us that's doing that on some level. So that's like another place to just like kind of track yourself. Like what's made you be the baby? I'm just laughing because I'm like, God, we're so smart and evolved and self-aware. And we also have the part that whines or like, you know, like goes to that place on our very worst day. I like using like I like giving you sort of these like metaphors where you can see it in like a caricature so you can like kind of understand it, right? So and again you'd be looking at where do you have Aries in your chart? So what house has this been moving through for the last, I mean, I could look at an ephemeris, but I have to get up and I feel like my mic is going to disconnect. So if it's at 20 degrees, it's a third of the way through 8 years. What's a third of 8? Kind of like 6 years. Yeah, it's probably been 5 years, like I said, since Chiron's been here. So for the last 5 years, I would say what has been coming up that's activating your inner child kind of energies, basic needs. It has that feel of like also wow, like a baby, like I'm hungry, I'm tired, I need you. Like some of those energies come up in the Aries frequencies. And so how are those wounds in you still here? I think a lot of us I just think generationally, like our generation, we come from like emotional neglect. Like nobody asked us how we were doing. We barely ask ourselves that. We're just still learning how to do that, right? So like, what are some of the sort of like micro-generational wounds that we experience together? I talked about that in the intro video to the class too. What are some of the collective wounds that we experience in our childhood that are things we lived through and then formed our understanding of humans and the world around? So basically, Chiron's kind of carrying this pack of like the last 5 years and all the things we've been through, but bringing it into focus with this eclipse energy on Monday. Also, interestingly, another like very nuanced, nerdy detail I'm noticing is that the eclipse, so this is a new moon eclipse. It means that the sun is in Aries and the moon has traveled all the way around the zodiac from the last full moon, which was a cross, and is now conjunct the sun in Aries. It's a new moon, which new moons always, no matter if it's an eclipse or not, a new moon always has the energy of a new start. It's the start of a lunar cycle. It also means that if you think about like the layout in the solar system, there's the sun, and then the moon is between the earth and the sun, right? So the moon is blocking the light of the sun. So you want to think about that part of it. Basically, the moon is showing its dark face to us, making us look at what we're not seeing, is a way to think about that. I swear to God, I just keep thinking about like gas stations in Texas and like people not knowing that this is shadow activation. It's going to be so bad. Anyway, totally. And 7 minutes later is exactly when Chiron comes into that degree point. It's so astronomical minutes are different than clock time Earth minutes. Okay, so it is conjunct, but in a clock, in a nerd vibe, this is where I'm getting to the nerd part. In a nuanced, nerdy, oh my God, I'm breaking this into tiny, tiny details because I have a Virgo moon, by the way. I'm always teaching other astrology while I'm here. 7 minutes later is when Chiron shows up. Clock minutes later. So Chiron wants you to experience the eclipse first. Like he's not coming in ahead. He's not like the preview and then you take that into the eclipse. He's like, feel this. Be with this energy. Feel what this is for you. Let that shadow energy get reflected back to you. Feel it. Moon energy. Feel it. And then let's have a conversation. And then what's really interesting is, Zach Davis is, the sun, once a year, the sun is conjunct all the planets. For sure, right? Because the sun's always goes around astrologically around the wheel. Sometimes, like with Mercury moving fast, it happens more than once because Mercury's quick. But for all the big outer planets, it's only one time. And so this is also, if you break this down, this is also a Chiron sun conjunction, right? And that's the sun shining the spotlight on Chiron. So we still have that energy, even though the moon's also involved and there's an eclipse and there's all these layers happening. So you kind of bring that voice in too. Like the sun gives all the light source energy of our universe, or our solar system, I should say, is like handing the mic to Chiron. Like let your source energy turn to Chiron to listen. That's kind of what that energy says. Does that make sense? There's another thing that just happened. I'm like, oh man, what day was that? Here. Yesterday on the 4th at 4:10 p.m. our time here in Colorado, the sun in Aries, so the sun's moving through Aries, it's already there. Yesterday was at 15 degrees. the sun was exactly conjunct the north node. And the nodes are connected. It gets confusing because the nodes pinpoint the eclipse where the signs the eclipses are happening in, but they're not always, the nodes aren't lined up with the eclipse points. In this case, it's pretty close. They're like 4 degrees apart. And it's a north node eclipse, as you'll hear astrologers say that. And that means north node is your direction. So I also feel like Chiron has this, he always kind of has this like walk the path kind of vibe. Like I actually see him, like he shows up for me literally when I'm walking on the trail. Like he loves just being in nature and walking and moving and appreciating all the buds on the trees, like all that kind of energy. But he's also like this is like a motion. There's an action. You're taking steps. You're on your healing path. It's that Virgo quality that he rules Virgo, and it's like step by step, day by day kind of energy. And North Node is like your compass point. So it's like, how are you directing yourself? Excuse me. It's about your karmic path, which gets confusing. It's like there's always that question like, am I doing what I'm here to do? Like I will always have that question. There's always a piece of that. Is it exactly this? I don't know. But so that might be coming up for you as part of this eclipse energy too. And just allowing yourself to have that, to have Chiron kind of in your ear or next to you on the trail as you're considering that directional energy. So how do you take the wisdom of your wound and use it as guidance to find that directional quality? And that's a very loose, energetic thing for me to tell you. I don't know. You all have to do that in your own way. Using your wound and the wisdom of your wound to weave that into having guidance, like bringing that into your direction, bringing that into your deeper understanding of your karmic direction, karmic path, compass point. Now, the North Node always comes with the South Node. We call it the head and the tail of the dragon. The South Node is karmic release, what you've already been through, probably in past lives and in this life, what you know. It's letting go. It's the stuff that I also think of like the stuff you drag behind you that you can just like, why are you still dragging that around? You can let that go. So this eclipse and this Chiron energy on Monday also invite just letting that go. Eclipses are a strong energy of a chopping off and just letting that whole load lighten. And so that can be the part that you sort of conjure. Or like there's an astrologer that's talking about making composting boards, like making a vision board, but it's the opposite. It's like a letting go board and then literally composting it. I'm like, I love that idea. The art therapist gardener in me, I'm like, yes. So do have at that, you know. I'm not really sure how magazine pages compost. I guess they did okay. Find some newspaper type paper. I don't know. Let's see, what else do I want to make sure I tell you before we do a meditation? Oh, here's another $1 million answer. Okay. What did I tell just for fun? Do you remember what are the 2 deepest, like the only wounds that actually exist once we take all the content out of it? Shame and fear, right? So what's the answer to that? What is healed shame and what is healed fear?
I mean, love would
Love.
definitely have fear. Maybe both of them.
What's the second thing you said, Kelsey?
I said maybe it would be for both of them, though.
Like love would be the answer for both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so totally. I think there's something around inner security
Mm.
and inner, like you can think of love any which way you want. It can be your own core essence, It can be the vibration of love and unconditional love, including for self. And those two things definitely relate to each other and help each other. So if you get nothing else out of this whole class, if it's too confusing and there's so many layers and you're like, I don't even know about my Chiron, just work with how do I find more self-security and self-love?
Yeah.
Inner security, inner love. What are the barriers to that? This is when I'm like, just go back to Rumi. He already knew it all.
They're going through in the video where it was like the Chiron in the third house, like being
Yes.
able to like break it down to like the planet, the house, the
Yeah.
zodiac sign. And I think I told you, like, security can't show up. Like,
Yes.
scarcity, like, can't show
Yeah.
up. And
Yes. Right.
you gotta work on the,
Mhm. Totally. Like Mia sharing, like in the video lesson that I sent, which Kelsey hasn't seen this yet, but you like break down. Okay, my natal Chiron, it's in this sign. It's in this sign means this. It's in this house. This house means this, and I give you a list of like where you find all your words. And she's like, God dang it! It's like security, 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 security. Like everywhere you look, it's the same answer, which also makes me laugh about astrology because it's like so complex to just be like, it's this. And it always, like, we could pull your solar return chart and it would tell us that. We could pull your progressed moon chart, it would tell us that. Like, we can find it. Like, sometimes you just need to hear it from different angles or different contexts, and then you just get it differently, or you understand what to do. Like, that's what I love about Chiron is like, this is what you do. That's what he wants to teach you. So that's what we're gonna, unless you have more questions, which is totally fine. I want to bring you more into like a healing meditation. We'll take a little mini break if anybody needs a bio break or an anything break. And we'll move into. Do you have any questions, Kelsey? She just took a little break, so you can speak up if you'd like to.
Not really. I mean, the whole fear and shame thing is so intertwined for me. It's even, those two things are hard to like separate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, which might be helpful because I think sometimes people get hung up between one or the other. Which one is it? And they get kind of go there. Maybe just bring them together and be like, it's both. Here
yeah.
they are together, hanging out.
Yeah.
Some of us can have, like, I find a wound that I work with a lot in myself, the level of the shame came from a place or a time or an age where it did activate fear.
Yeah.
Like kind of that like fear of being ejected from the tribe, kind of evolution energy. Like if I'm not this, then I'm gonna die.
Mhm.
Where it's like you could work with that as shame, but really maybe it's always fear. And maybe
Yeah.
that's a way to think about it too.
Yeah, it is. It's like the first feeling is always, for me, it's always like shame and like, okay, am I being kind enough? It's like this self-centered thing on how kind of I'm being perceived. And then there's fear around me not doing the right thing. And I was also raised so Catholic. So there was
Mm-hmm.
so much shame if you weren't like good or nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, Chiron actually has a lot to say about religious trauma
Okay.
in my mind. Religious trauma being like to me, sorry, I hope I don't offend anybody here. I think everybody's kind of with me on this, but like religion basically cuts you off from your inner security and
Yep.
makes you rely on it as a separate external god or set of rules or whatever to then be good and safe.
Totally. And I
So
think
that's a huge piece. And if you get conditioned to that as a child, that's hard. That's hard to undo.
it is.
She's talking about her Catholicism.
Yeah.
Mhm. You're born bad.
Totally. You're
You're
born.
born you and the answer is definitely not within you.
It's definitely within the man that sits on the throne in the building,
Yeah.
talks at you.
And you guys, I mean, I've had so many, I've done, I can't even like go into it because I'd be talking for hours, but I've done so many healings where I see all these very specific things that religions have done to people and how like they know all this and they are decidedly keeping it from us,
Yeah.
which is so crazy. And maybe now it's evolved to where they have gaslit themselves and they don't even really know that anymore. But like the original secrets were like extracted and hidden from the people, even
Totally.
down to like the things like you guys know all my like sunlight stuff that I'm into and whatever. I'm like, they even like took that away, like how to actually heal ourselves because it makes us dumb. Like to not be like in ketosis and get the red light from the sun, all that actually like makes our brains not work right or makes
Yeah.
our bodies start to get sick or makes us like even just like the eating the food and the biological ways we take care of ourselves is like they know that fasting is important but instead it's like here's bread every service. Like here eat some carbs and some grains. Like grain yourself out. So it's just kind of crazy when you think back to the history of things. And that's a whole other, like, it would be a really fascinating, very long documentary series or something. I'm like, hint, hint, John, maybe you can work that in. His partner does show stuff. Okay. So even though we all have different core wounds, we all have the same, right? So we're going to be working in this meditation. Um, I'm actually, Carmen's like, can you like introduce me? I'm like, yes, I'm sorry. I keep like, I know you're there. Like he wants you to just like in your own way, if you maybe you've already done this, but just sort of like conjure him, feel him. You might just feel there's an energy or a frequency pulse. You might let yourself go to that like kind of visual imagination space of imagining him in his like pseudo centaur form. Um, doesn't matter however you connect, but just see if you can feel the frequency of it. It's like he has that unconditional love, like the good enough father energy to me. Like that sort of like, well, I'm here and I'm strong and I'm with you. I can't protect you from all the pain in the world, he says, but I can see your pain. I can give you that emotional reflection and attunement. And I can show you the path. I can show you the medicine. I can help to teach you the ways, but really the wisdom is within you. So that's his whole vibe. And you can work with him like however you're feeling him now, you can bring him in to work with you anytime that you need that kind of support where you're kind of lost in your own healing path or lost in your own pain or illness or something like that. And he can help to show you. So we're just kind of inviting that quality of his energy in each of your personal ways of how you're feeling him and orienting to him into this meditation that we're going to do now. So just let yourself breathe and feel into this exact space of however you are showing up here and now. He has a, Chiron would sometimes get kind of stuck in his head as one of his patterns. And he's just reminding us to just kind of see that if it's coming up in us, we don't have to know or understand. This meditation is recorded, so you can do this again and again and feel it different ways, and it doesn't have to be perfect. He loves bringing in like the honoring of imperfection because that's another one of the qualities that he lived out through his whole life is that he was born imperfect, like by society's judgments or whatever, physically, etc. And he loved the embodiment of his imperfection. Like that then became this iconic way that people could connect to him and his healing energies was because of his imperfection. So he just wants to bring that in, bring you out of your head. and just letting yourself feel. He's saying like the times that he would go to pain was the times that he was not feeling. So like feeling lets the energy move. And so often what we're doing is bracing ourselves against the feeling of the pain. And that's when we're operating in the frequencies of shame or fear. So at the end of this meditation, we are going to come back together and talk about a couple of strategies or tactics because he loves for there to be like these options for ritual and tools. But for now, we're all supported in this place of being attuned to by this loving earth based energy, this masculine quality of unconditional love. To just start to notice in your own energy field, in your own body, in your emotional body, in the auric field around you, within the cells of your being, and maybe even deep down into the tissue of your organs. Just start to feel the places where there's density, or I'm going to call it bruising or scar tissue, any kind of pain in real time, whether that's emotional or physical. The places in you where you can feel yourself bracing or holding on to something that feels low vibration. You might even orient to that metaphor of poison. Does it feel like there's an infected or poisoned part of you? Like the place where the arrow struck him. And you're just noticing and collecting observations and sensations, not needing to think about it or judge it, just letting it be real in your body. What weighs you down in the earth realm? Where do you feel that? In addition to physical sensation and emotional and energetic knowing, you also may start to see energies or see circuitries or patterns of energy that show you the way some of these patterns that have developed in your system have kind of an energetic habit of circuitry that just sort of shows up. So let yourself also begin to see this as energy patterns that have to do with that quantum entanglement of us being in a social nervous system connected to others. And trying to keep making this about you. Like the second you go outside and past your field and you're starting to think about others and starting to think about relational dynamics, you get lost from your own understanding of your internal wound and the medicine. So just staying within the parameters of your own energy field. Watching, feeling, observing the movement, the pulsing, the storylines, what happens in the thinking mind. Even some of those like automatic thoughts that start to come up around wanting to understand this more or wanting to know what to do. Just kind of notice that pattern too. What does your body need? Try the exercise of letting 10 different parts of your body answer that question. Notice if they have the same answer, or if there's any conflict. What does your emotional body need? That ethereal auric field. If you imagine deep self-love and a deep felt sense of inner security, how do those come across in your perception, in your physical body, and in your auric field? Can you resonate with a deep, centered, centrifugal motion pulling toward your center, revolving and resonating with the core frequency that runs through your bones? Can you start to feel that as something that you can churn and conjure in your central channel, running through the center of your body from root to crown? And what of energy medicine do you need to add to that in your own way to bring yourself to understand this energy as inner security and a deep sense of self-love? Can you find an inner peace? Can you find a sitting still inside that core space of you? And whatever you're able to feel and sense, can you let that vibration saturate the whole of your body? Every cell, every part of you, feeling the frequency, feeling the tingling, or seeing the color that you imagine is there. Let the saturation fill out through the body and out into that beautiful ethereal auric field, emotional body outside of you that still is you, that holds the electromagnetic field of your beating and pulsing and loving heart. And notice the more you hold that frequency, does it show up where it's missing or hard to connect with that frequency? And do you get more wisdom when you pay attention to those places? And you can always resource Chiron himself and ask for guidance or to help you on your path or in your answers to the questions that you still have. He's always here for all of us. And he always brings us back to our own question of what's the wisdom in your own body? What's the wisdom in your emotions? What's the wisdom that leads you back to your original innate being, where you have automatic, inherent self-worth, inner security, and deep self-love? And let that light you up from the inside out. while also remembering that you're here in the Earth School, where it takes that steady commitment to walking the path, healing the pain, giving yourself all the medicine and resources and support that your system needs to remember this, to remember your inherent self-worth and inner security and deep self-love. Chiron reminds us that this is a daily practice as much as possible in this modern human world. And he specifically asks you to understand the ways that you personally can start and end your waking day with supports, tools, rituals for what you need. Taking this knowledge with you and start to come back into the space where you are. Let yourself come back into the light of day and take some time to reflect. You might want to write some things down. I'll give you some time to do that. And we'll rejoin in a minute or two and talk about some tools, strategies, and support. I know that I need movement, but I also have to stay connected to the mic. That's what I'm like. It doesn't line up with life always. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes to have a conversation or kind of talk through some tools and ideas. He's shown me some like really simple thing, like just bringing us back to the basics, kind of neurosomatic type stuff that I feel like a lot of you know these tools, but I'm going to talk about a couple. Does anybody have any questions or comments before I start talking about that? Any reflections? Any needs?
Clarified the word.
Uh-huh.
Neither.
Yeah,
That's like what
the fear.
it is.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
been my like work. It just
Mhm.
I mean, since we started doing like this like embodied state.
Mhm. She's saying wanting to find the sense of embodied safety. And that's what's so crazy is we're in an unsafe place and we have to find the embodied safety anyway. So yeah, like it's like doing even visualizations where you're like imagining, I don't know, I don't want to bring in like scary things, but let's just use the earthquake because it just happened. It's like, can you stand on the side of a mountain and feel the earthquake and be okay? And stay grounded, like be centered in yourself and your own energy. And if not, maybe none of us really can because we're animal bodied, but how close can you get to that? And what do you need? You know, most of us have an overreactive nervous system because of the how modern life is. And so some of this is really caring for your nervous system. Like I like to think of putting your nervous system first. Like having a morning routine that's for your nervous system mostly before it's for anything else. So even just scanning, you wake up from dreams and it's like you might have had a weird dream and your nervous system might be in a state that's different or more triggered. But if you're not mindful of that and you kind of just jump into whatever is your normal morning routine that doesn't take that, like it's exercise or it's what eating or whatever, how can you like adopt that nervous system orientation to what you are doing with your practice, with your working out or your eating or whatever? Like an example with eating would be like, maybe I'm trying to do intermittent fasting, but my heart is racing and I just need food. I need grounding. I need to eat something that's going to ground me. Like that's the choice versus like some rule you have for yourself with your 14-day cleanse you're doing or something. Like I'm just making up all these bolder examples that we do, like maybe that's not the right answer for what your nervous system needs. And Chiron wants you to listen, to stop and just get like, right now, what do you need? Like that's kind of his question always. So I find, Kelsey, did you have anything you want to say or add before I keep talking? Okay. Like some really, really basic stuff that helps is because we're so cognitively focused, I think having a mantra or like an affirmation, like really basic level, it can even be something like, I know I will feel my core wound and my fear today, and I'm supporting myself to find my inner security. Or that's kind of a long mantra, but like, something that makes sense for you that's kind of along those lines so that you're putting that into your thinking mind. You're kind of programming yourself for the day to have that in there. Yes. So the physical gestures too, like the high heart, belly, or whatever part of you, touching whatever part of you. Some people it's the thighs, whatever feels like loving support to yourself with your hands of light. I was going to talk about, do you guys know Jin Shinjitsu? It's like a finger hold practice that connects to Eastern medicine and the meridians. I'll text everybody this little hand drawing that I have. It's so sweet. It's like very basically put, how the organs connect to different emotions and meridian lines and acupuncture and stuff. So like your pointer finger is worry or anxiety. So it's always like a great one. All you do is you hold one finger with the other hand. And if that's all you do, that's fine. You switch to the other hand. But it also can be, you can go a little deeper into it by just kind of closing your eyes and meditating with that finger hold. And you'll notice, like if you've ever gone to acupuncture, they take your pulse on both sides and do some of that like side to side checking. Usually we're a little out of balance. And so when you switch fingers, you'll notice that you are potentially like one is a little bit more awake or asleep or strong or light. You can do this too. I'm thinking of you. It's the same meridian. It's finding the meridian line basically. My favorite thing is anger is the middle finger. That cracks me up. And so you could play with the different emotions, but just even like kind of tuning to yourself, like there's something about just like that kind of touch that brings you back to yourself. And then it is bilateral. It's like a side to side. And if you just sit like this, even for like, this is a good tool for if you're in meetings and stuff, like even working, you can like kind of use these tools. But just kind of, it's like a good reminder. You know how I talked about like all of you are overgivers. It kind of takes your energy and you're like making a loop of your energy back to yourself. It's like a what's that called in yoga? Yoga. Like where you close the loop. like whether with your tongue or with your finger holds, like that idea that you're keeping your energy for yourself. I forget what the word for that is. Okay. Also tapping, EFT tapping. It's like, if you don't know what that is, you can find 10,000 videos on YouTube that show you how to do it, but I'll talk you through it really quickly, which is basically, you come up with, like, if you know you have a specific, either a trigger that's up or a way that you feel that doesn't feel great, you can do this upon waking up as like a, setting your day, but you can also do it in real, both of these tools. You can also do in real time when you are feeling like triggered or anxious or whatever. And tapping basically is also using pressure points, meridians, like all that inner energy flow type stuff. And it's pairing it with neurolinguistic programming for yourself, where you're like kind of self hypnotizing yourself to think something. And so let's just say you wake up feeling anxious. You would pull out, okay, anxious. And then I'll send you the like written out thing of this, but you say to yourself, even though I feel anxious, I still deeply and completely love and accept myself. I'm thinking that's just the one that I've always known, but you can even add in I'm thinking the fear, the security. You can like answer it, like add in like, I deeply and completely love myself and can find inner security. Actually, that's good. I'll write that down for you. And while you say that, you're hitting there's like a meridian point that ends below your kind of pinky knuckle on the side of your hand. And I sort of use a knuckle on my other hand and kind of hammer it there while I'm saying it. So I say, even though I feel anxiety or anxious, I still deeply and completely love and accept myself and can find a sense of inner security. And you repeat that 3 times. And then once you've repeated that 3 times, you sort of like take the medicine down your body. And you do that by tapping on your crown chakra. I would say at least like 5 times. You don't really want to be in your head counting, but just, I don't know. I always do it like kind of extra. You go crown of head, you go around your eye socket. So you go top of the brow bone, side of the brow bone, underneath the eye. And then you go with one hand so you're kind of thinking of like where your teeth meet your gums on the top and the bottom. So you're going to go here and here. And then there's kind of like a sensitive spot. People do this one in different places. I do it like, I don't know, let's see. It's like between my collarbone and my upper rib bone. And I just kind of find a spot, like if you kind of tap around there, you'll feel where it's sort of more sensitive. And you want that sensitive spot. And as you're tapping, you're just still thinking of like self-love, inner security, self or whatever you need, like whatever the medicine is. And then the next spot is like, for people who wear bras, I always say it's like your bra line, but it's like the side of your rib cage, maybe like 5 or 6 inches below your armpit. And again, it's a spot that you'll kind of tap until you're like, ooh, there it is. And so that's the last point. And once you've kind of gone down through the points, then there's usually a sense of like a little relief or a little calm. And if you're way triggered, you just might have to do it again, starting again at the crown, around the eye, top of the gum, bottom of the gum, collarbone-ish, side, and down. And these are like really simple tools that are accessible anytime by anyone, always. So some of this is self-tooling, and some of it is like more biological or what you're putting in your body. Okay. So I'm making everybody, I'm like waiting to see what this eclipse feels like before I make you your little medicine, but I'm going to make everybody your own little custom medicine. But you can, like, I want you to be thinking of yourself as like a medicine healer. Like maybe it's just simple that you're just buying tea at the store and making it. Like it doesn't have to be like you're out there foraging things, although that's great. Chiron would love that. The closest you get to foraging to if you're here local is just go to a little herbal. They'll forage for you. No, they're still not open yet. They just moved down the street. Tinctures, essential oils, you know, anything that you're putting in your body that is a support is can be kind of woven into your ritual. So it's one thing to give yourself like, if your immune system's down and you're like, I'm going to take my immune stuff because I need that today. That's part of it, sure. But you almost want to have like your tincture or your medicine that's like your self-love level. Like you just always give this, like, hawthorn berry is so good for my heart, and I'm just taking that every day because I love it. Like totally just dump it down. Or your mushrooms and greens powder, or like whatever your thing is. Like a lot of you already do your things, but just mentally bring it into like, this is my medicine. This is my daily ritual. This is my Chiron path. This is healing. Okay, so we're just about at time for the class for today. Does anybody have any last thoughts or questions or ideas, things that have worked for you with like getting a ritual going that you want to share? Oh, I was, you know, about, I tell everybody about my Apollo Neuro too. This is one of my little rituals. Have you tried this yet? Sorry, she's here and gets to try it. So you put it on like your pulse point. The Apollo Neuro is like a little it's like a you can probably get different bands too and get creative about that. It gives like a little buzz to your pulse point, and it's the pattern of the buzz this is created by a neuropsychologist or neurologist or something. And it sends a signal basically to your midbrain. It kind of is like attachment part of your brain, and it just helps you feel okay. So I also will tell you, you know, I'm somebody who I have like complex trauma and like neurodivergence, and like I'm a hot mess inside, right? So when I got this thing, which I bought for my partner and my son for their sleep problems and their ADHD and stuff, right? And I was like, well, of course I'm gonna try it first because I want to see always see what everything's like, and so I can tell clients about it and stuff like that. And I put this thing on, and it comes with like an app where you're like choosing your programs that you want to use. I'm like, ooh, calm. That sounds good. And I put it on calm, and I was like, ugh, like I don't like this. And I was like, of course I don't. I don't even know what the calm is, you know. So then I put on focus, and I was like, oh, this is making me feel calm. I'm like, right. So you have to like match your nervous system, like to kind of know what you're talking about. My favorite one to do, which I might do for you, is recover. That's always what I run it on. So I have to run it on myself hours a day. I mean, I have to, I like to, hours a day on recover, as though as though something just happened, even when it didn't, because I'm still recovering from the early 80s. Do you want to try that one? Okay. I probably have it kind of strong. I like it. That's like my neurodivergence too. I like a lot. Like I want loud music or big pulses, or you know. Can you feel it? Um, I think it's like $250, but usually they'll have a $50 off coupon for like, I feel like they do it for like Mother's Day and like random holidays. I've never seen it go lower than that, or like a bigger coupon. Um, I would not recommend getting the white band. It's like so dirty and gross, and like no matter what I do. You can. My son likes to wear it. So the nice thing is, like, if you have a family, everybody can use it. I like tools like that where it's like freaking expensive, but like everybody can use it. You can wear it on your ankle. So my middle son wears it to fall asleep sometimes. Wasn't lately, but um, I have I have a client. It uses up the battery kind of fast. Like you can wear it for maybe an hour and a half or something like that. Which the software is like 20-minute programs and stuff, like non highly sensitives. Just that's all they need. The rest of us who are healers in the world and starseeds, it's like all day long. So I have this one client that literally wears it all day. She wears it, she charges it, she wears it, she charges it. Like she just has the kind of life too where she can like think of that. Her kids are grown, and you know, but she's
What
like,
is
I
that?
love this thing. It's called the Apollo Neuro, APOLLO, and then NEURO. I actually found it through the psychedelic community because a lot of those people are using it for like like pre-trip jitters or stuff like that, or like even integration, like when you're kind of like repairing your nervous system. So it's kind of like a like you don't realize how much you're overriding your attachment brain all day long. And this just sort of like takes care of that level. So you don't even have to be like aware of doing that sort of. So again, I don't know how Chiron feels about modern electronic tools. He's like, I don't even know. He's like, it's been a long time since I was here. Yeah. Um, I did bring, speaking of that stuff, I have my pulsetto here, but I don't know if it'll unhook from the microphone. Some of you guys know about this already. This is a vagus nerve reset simulator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I've shown you. It's kind of weird because it looks like a house arrest neck device or something. But it's like like sometimes you just need like directness to your brain or your vagus nerve, I feel like. So this one's really cool. I think it's maybe about the same price, maybe less, I don't remember. Yeah, okay. Well, I asked you guys a question and didn't even really let you answer. Do you have any like things you love that you want to share?
I've been doing some
Awesome. He has been doing work in Kundalini in the morning.
My girlfriend, who was a Kundalini teacher, she just sent me this and chanting. Chanting.
Yes.
Yes.
That
that's
chanting is a
amazing.
vagus nerve reset.
And she just sent me, and I'm happy to share this with you guys if you want. It's like for the eclipse, like it's like
Oh.
a practice. It's this Kundalini.
Uh-huh.
You do this and you chant. It's the Ware Guru.
Uh-huh.
11 minutes is all you need, and like you focus on your third eye and you do this and you chant the Ware Guru, and it's profound. It's
That's
like an
awesome.
amazing way to start your day. I've also
Yeah.
been doing I'm in this program right now, this like women's program. And she creates these meditations and these practices for us to do like at least 4 times a week. And a couple weeks ago, there was one on shaking and like dancing and movement with breath work.
Mhm.
That's like 25 minutes, but I will do that like twice a week in the morning. It literally changes your frequency.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh yeah.
oh my God, it's again, like I've been just kind of really dabbling more into like the chanting and the breath work and the Kundalini. But
It's so cool that you are talking about chanting because I've recently been thinking about chanting a ton. Just for like voice stuff. Like I feel like I have some of the stuff that I'm working through in my Saturn return is a lot about my voice, and I want to just like use my voice. And I feel like chanting would be awesome for that.
oh God, chanting is like
Mhm.
amazing, like,
Mhm.
amazing. And it can just be like the same chant, the same mantra over and over again. And there's different, like I've learned that like by the way you can move your tongue in certain chants can like activate just different frequencies. Like the hare is like, it does something to like your brain. Like yeah. And then shaking, like the shaking, like the dance, like the shaking is
limp
like,
shake.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
At first I was like, this is weird, like woo shit. And then I'm like totally like addicted
Where
to
do you do
it.
it in Boulder, or is it like on videos that you watch?
Well, my girlfriend created this program and she's in Bali and she runs it every like, I think once a year. It's like a 5-month program and she's created it. But the email that she sent me with the Kundalini, the Ware Guru, Amy can just text me your email. I'll send it to you. And you can, it links it. There's like a quick, like 4-minute YouTube video on like how to do it and what like how it's beneficial for you. And she's like, she recommends doing this between now and like before the eclipse and like and Monday and then like a little bit afterwards. It's just like a great way to like move and clear energy. And then there's a whole Satnam Kur chant, the Ware Guru. And it's beautiful. I mean, I literally did it for 11 minutes. And then you guys this morning when I was vacuuming, I had it in my ears and I'm like totally chanting as I'm vacuuming.
Vacuuming this morning. Hilarious.
Friday's vacuum day and water plants day. So regimented.
Things have stuck in your head.
Totally.
That's so great.
But I was like, oh, I'm gonna turn this on. I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep chanting as I'm vacuuming, which is
Uh-huh.
also like a very rhythmic thing. Like,
Totally.
you know,
And it's vibrating, and it's a
like-
load. So Kelsey, I was also thinking when I was like healing some of that throat kind of empowerment stuff, in my car, because your car, like nobody can hear
Yeah.
you. It's like such a great place to chant. I would just like go, whoa, like get my voice as low as I could. And like, it was just and I would just, it felt so good. I would be driving for 20 minutes just doing that.
Oh my gosh, I was with my sister in Jackson Hole over spring break for a few days snowboarding, and the whole like riding back, I was just randomly making noises like that. I was like, if someone had a recording of this right now.
So it's like animals know what they're doing.
Right.
know?
Yeah.
I've been noticing, because we live right on the Coal Creek, and I'm like constantly walking on that trail. And there have been so many more, like it might be mating calls in spring, and like I don't really know, but like there's so many more animal noises that are like that kind of tone. I don't even know what the animals are. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's like they know or they know the eclipse is coming. I don't know.
Oh yeah. The coyotes are gonna be like, I can't wait.
I
Oh my
know. I'm gonna stop recording this.